We hunt for treasure, stacking them in piles. Hustling hard, making deals all day. Flipping finds, turning profit our way. Pure Hustle Podcast guides our quest. Learning tricks to be the best. On eBay we make our name. Reselling dreams, winning the game. Pure Hustle Podcast guides our quest. Learning tricks to be the best. On eBay we make our name. Reselling dreams, winning the game.
Welcome to Pure Hustle Podcast. I'm Mike.
And this is Orlando on Word episode 440. And this is live and organic. Caught me slipping for a moment. So
yeah, man, you're locked in and focused on something else. And I get it, because you got a lot going on right now, right?
Well, no, I have property management hitting me up right now about coming to do repairs. So I'm like, I missed that the music was over. So anyways, hey everyone, thanks for joining us. Episode 440 live update as it happens. And appreciate people that are here already. Patrick Kehoe, thanks for joining us. Black Cat Flips, how are you? And I know there's many others that are watching and tuning in. And if you're listening to the podcast, you're wondering what is all the randomness. It's because this is a live episode. Mike and I will probably be doing these for a little bit until I get settled down and we can get back to the normal podcast format. But what's going on, Lauren? How are you? And K-Way Shop, yes, the beards are back. We didn't go anywhere. The beards might be disappearing in the green screen here, but outside of that, we are still here.
Yeah, that's right. And again, thank you all who've been listening for a while. You know, our audio quality has gone through hiccups at times because there was a point in time when I moved across the country and left San Diego, and it took us a little bit to get kind of adjusted. And I think we might be, going through a little bit of growing pains now that Orlando has moved, and we'll be talking about that a little bit as well. So Orlando, your audio is coming in a little bit odd, but we'll fix it up a little bit. And over the next couple of episodes, we'll have that dialed in. So thank you all for bearing with us. So man, Orlando, I'm eager to hear, because I've only chatted with you for a few minutes since you've made this move. What's going on, man?
So I can't even. There's just so much to say, and I'm trying to keep this podcast to not 5 hours or 6 hours. So this is what I will tell to everyone that is a full-time reseller. If you're a full-time reseller, make sure you understand that if you do not list your stuff right away, you do not sell your stuff right away, you will become a hoarder without even knowing it. And that's pretty much what happened to me. So I'm now up in the Bay Area, but I got to tell you, it was a journey. Okay, let me tell you how bad it is. So usually people rent those 26-foot U-Haul trailers, and that's pretty large, right? That's like 3 to 4 bedroom. Okay, I had that, and I had a pod, right? And I still was not able to get everything out of my place.
And let's be honest, it's just you and your son. It's not like you've got a ton of people living in the house you're trying to move. I mean, 3 to 4 bedroom plus a pod worth of space, and it's just basically a bachelor and his kid, and not like a full family. So most of that you were moving was inventory, yeah.
Inventory and just stuff I picked up, right? One of the things I noticed was I had a habit of just picking up stuff that was cool because it was at a garage sale price. Right. So stuff that normally like you would go in the store, like you always talk about, would you be willing to pay a certain amount for a certain item for yourself? And if not, then you probably shouldn't pick it up, right? Unless you're planning to resell it. And so I ended up, I just would find like displays. I would find like store displays. I would find like all these big items. And I'm like, why? Okay, all right. I remember I bought this because I thought it was cool. I never planned on reselling it. I just bought it because it was a great deal. And then Mike's look at disappointment.
That's a bad habit, man. You can't do that.
It was. And then part of it too is when you have a huge haul, sometimes people are like, hey, I don't mind selling this all to you for a good price, but you need to take all of it. So doing that once, twice is okay. But what if you do that 100 times? And then those 100 times that you do that, you don't move the stuff that you pick up. And that's what ended up happening to me was I just had all this random stuff. So I planned this move out for months. I knew this move was coming. And so I ended up, going, okay, on these days, this is what I'm going to do. So I ended up reducing my totes. I had about 70 totes in use. I reduced them down to 20 totes. That's how much empty space I had, right? Because I shifted from selling clothing and shoes to more collectibles. So all those totes of shoes, all those totes of clothing ended up being, moved down. So I was like, oh, that's pretty awesome, right? This is going to be sleek. This is going to be great. And then there was like this huge stash of just like stuff in the middle of the garage, stuff in the eBay room. And so I called my buddy up and I'm like, hey, I know you're trying to get out of debt. Do you want some of the stuff? So he came over and he grabbed a bunch of CRT TVs and he grabbed a bunch of other stuff. And I'm like, oh, we made progress. I'm like, all right, this is doable. So I think this is totally fine. So to give you perspective, I was supposed to be out on a Friday. I had started like technically packing stuff 3 weeks before. Okay. So the pod got shipped out the week before that Friday. So now I'm just dealing with the trailer stuff. So I ended up packing all this stuff. And then when I realized I was supposed to be out by Saturday, and it was Friday night, and my good friend who was going to help me out through this, because he's done a lot of work for me and stuff, and we're friends through just him. He's like my landscaper too, but he actually, we're good friends from previous employment. And he looked at me and I looked at him and I said, we don't have a hope. Like, this is not going to be done by tomorrow. He's like, nope. I said, it's time to call junk removal. I'm like, do you know anybody? He's like, no, we'll figure it out. So we ended up, I'm not, no joke. It ended up being like a 40 foot like dumpster, 10-foot deep of just stuff. Along with, and not only that, one of his friends, his dad sells like across the border. You know those guys that come in with huge trucks. In San Diego, we have a lot of Mexicans that come across the border, and they have like these trucks that have like gates, like kind of welded to the truck that go all the way, like I don't know how, 20 feet high. I don't know exaggeration, maybe 15 feet high. And this dad was one of these people, and so I gave them a ton of stuff. I gave them, I don't know, thousands of dollars of stuff because I didn't want to junk it. I wanted it to go to a good home. And oh my goodness, it took all of that. So I lost thousands of dollars. I also ended up junking a ton of stuff. All right, I got to get to secondhand solo here real quick. He has 3 comments. He says, if when you move, you use an 18-wheeler, you might be a reseller. This is very true. He also says, when you move by train, you might be a reseller. That might be true too. If you move by shipping container in the Pacific, you might be a reseller.
That's good. Yeah, and I think I don't know if somebody has already capitalized on the you might be a redneck to the you might be a reseller jokes, but maybe we need to pick that up and have that be a whole segment of our show where every episode we have like 2 you might be a reseller jokes. I think that's fantastic. Real quick, Orlando, the next time after you're done with this story, if you want to double check that your mic, all of your plugs are plugged in good. I don't know if there's a loose connection or something, but you're occasionally kind of dropping out and sounding a little bit robotic.
Okay.
All right. All right. Continue.
Okay. Continue. So there's a point I feel as a full-time reseller when you have too much junk, like this was the case. I didn't care anymore. Like, hey, there's this Kellogg's cereal display, probably worth $300. Out of here. There's this Star Wars VHS display, probably sells for $150. Out of here. Like, I just was like, I'm done. Now, the beauty about reselling is you pay so cheap for things that you're not like losing, right? You're not losing thousands of dollars. I did lose thousands, I guess.
You're losing potential, right? Like you're not losing. Yeah, you didn't lose out so much on the initial cost, but you're potentially losing out on the potential that you could have, unrealized profits, right?
Correct. And then it got to the point where I was just like, I got to move. This stuff has to go. And the scary thing about it was I started getting into boxes. So in my garage, I had 2 full closets inside the garage. I don't know why they were built there. Maybe somebody lived in the garage at some point in time. So I would just throw stuff in there. That one day I'm like, I'll get to this stuff. I'll get to this stuff. I started going in there. I got like Nintendo DSs. I got clippers. I have nativity set stuff. I have ice cooler. I had all this stuff I totally forgot about. And so I had to move that stuff, and it just felt like every nook and cranny there was inventory somewhere, and it was a terrible experience. And I am thankful that I went through this terrible experience because I do believe it's going to make me a better reseller. You know, the interesting thing about it is I had about 2,500 items in my store. I only gave away things that were listed, maybe 200 or something items.
No,
All
I
the
was
others.
I was going to ask you about that because I know that you gave some items away, you threw away items. What was your process to double check that you had what was not listed versus listed? Because I know, you have a lot of death piles, and some of your death piles kind of blend with your not death piles, your actual inventory. So how did you go through it? And are you anticipating maybe having a couple of items sell that you forgot to delist?
I'm gonna be real. Like in the beginning, I was really good about it. Like I would just delist stuff, but when it came down to the midnight time and it was time to go, I remember there was this wall full of stuff. Like you know where my shipping room is, Mike,
Yep.
and it had that wall of inventory that was there.
Mhm.
I just said, all the inventory, take it. It's yours. I don't even know what was on that wall.
Oh,
Like I know
that's not good, Orlando.
we will follow this journey.
Oh, because I had a couple of items that I was like certain I had delisted, and I guess I hadn't, and they've sold since I've moved, and it's frustrating, right? Because you don't want those negative hits and out of stocks, and if you did that with a whole wall of inventory, there's no way you delisted it all. I mean, unless you were super good with like everything in these containers on this wall have this code, this custom SKU, and so I'm gonna go ahead and just unlist all of these custom SKU numbers, sort them by that. Otherwise, man, I'm worried about you.
I know.
That
Well,
might be
I did
troubling.
take a mental snapshot. I do not have a photographic memory, so that really probably didn't help. But I did as soon as I said that, I did go on my phone and try to remove as much as I could. I'm sure there'll be some items. I did for the first time get a transaction defect, which has been a long time. It was a dumb $5 picture frame that I thought I knew where it was, and I never found it. And to give everybody a heads up, I'm not telling people how to run their business, but whenever you have an item that you can't find, you can always do the contact the buyer and say, hey, would you like me to cancel this, or would you like me to send something else? And they'll tell you can cancel it, and you can cancel it. And when you mark buyer asked to cancel, you're telling the truth. But sometimes, like if you're like Orlando, you will print that shipping label, being very confident that you have that item, and then you don't find it. So if you do it after you've printed the shipping label, that's when the algorithm catches you. So it caught me on this one because I already printed the shipping label, and by the time I was able to put buyer asked to cancel, I did it. But then I saw later that it ended up showing a transaction defect, and that's the second time I've gone through that. So make sure that you do not print a shipping label if you're trying to back out of something because you can't find it. Because once you print that shipping label, eBay will hold you to the out of stock defect. So be aware of that. That was actually my random story, but it was a lesson to me. It was a lesson to me. It's several lessons. One is, as resellers, even though we claim that we don't buy junk, a lot of people buy junk. I'm not saying everyone does, but I bought a lot of stuff. I bought a ton of stuff, and like I said, some of it was hey, take everything all at once and I'll give you a deal. So some of it was that. Some of it was just me going, you know what? I'm going to be the only one selling this item. That's okay if the sell-through rate is poor. I probably should have never picked it up.
Yeah, I mean, so a couple of things there. One is one lesson to be learned when you do buyouts like that, because I've done those as well, where you're buying quite a bit of inventory at once, knowing a lot of it is junk. You kind of have to have the rule that you are going to deal with the inventory that you purchase within 24 hours. Maybe you extend it to 48 hours if based off your schedule. But if you say like, hey, I'm going to get to this eventually, that's when you never get to it, right? Like you've got to know right away, like as soon as I get this stuff home, the trash is going in the trash, the stuff that's being donated is going to be donated, and the stuff that needs to be listed will be listed within 24 to 48 hours. I mean, so you got to almost have to make a thing like that. And then the other thing is, um, and Orlando, you're not alone in this. Like, I mean, I'm giving you a little bit of hard time, because
I
it's
deserve
just,
it though. It was.
it's fun to do.
I wish I
But
documented the whole thing because it was terrible.
you should have. You should have recorded some of that. But yeah, I mean, the other thing is, as resellers, sometimes we can be addicted to the sourcing aspect, right? Like we can be addicted to the purchasing, the buying, and so you almost kind of got like an intervention where you had to like face it and like throw away a bunch of stuff. And now you're going to, like you said, it's a learning lesson, where you're going to be a little bit more careful in the future. Now the hard part is you can always fall right back into bad habits. So you got to always remind yourself, like, okay, you might think, oh, I'm not planning on moving anytime soon. But if it ever happens again like this, man, I mean, you don't want to be in that position again.
No, it was, it felt like I was doing hard labor that was never going to end. Like it just never ended. It didn't matter how many shelves I cleared. It didn't matter how much, how much I made. Oh, I didn't even mention this thing. I have a Honda Pilot. Okay. I had the seats down. I packed the Honda Pilot at least 12 times to donate to Goodwill. So we have 12 car full loads to Goodwill. We have who knows how much to that other family. Then we have the stuff that went in the dumpster. Then we have the trash that I haven't even, like, it was wild, man. It was, and I think about hoarders. Like,
See, what you should have done, Orlando, is you should have just bought a couple of Gaylords and filled them up with stuff, especially because some of it's decent inventory. It's not like the worst stuff. And you should have just sold them in lots, like on what's the live
Whatnot.
Yeah, you should have done. I almost said WhatsApp. I'm like, no, it's not WhatsApp. Yeah, Whatnot. You should have done like a Whatnot where it's like, all right, Gaylord number 1, and you just show like kind of some of the stuff that's in there. And you know how people buy the Amazon pallets? They could have just bought $50 plus shipping, and then who knows what they would get.
So next update, we'll have part 2 of this, because now it's like, I wonder how much this inventory made it safely, right? Yeah. So some of the taxidermy stuff, like I packed it, but who knows, right? I did have a Herman Miller Eve's chair, and it made it safely. Freddie Funko made it safely. I am proud to say that he is safely stored away in a closet.
I have a feeling that rode with you on the seat next to you, right?
No, that was in the back of the U-Haul with the bungee cord around the box, but he made it safely. So it's that was the other thing too. It was like, hey, if I prepared better, I probably could have taken more inventory with me. But honestly, I can't say I didn't prepare. I just didn't anticipate how much it was going to actually be. That was my big deal. So, hey, Mike, what's going on with you? Because I can go on and on and on, but how are things going?
Yeah, I mean, things are going pretty good. Man, we are finally entering springtime here in Texas, which means garage sales are coming. And let me tell you, like, Central Texas, springtime is actually pretty beautiful. Like, I would say from like March all the way up until like the end of May, the part of June is a lot like San Diego. Like the weather is beautiful. So I'm really excited for some garage sales to kick up again, because we're coming out of winter and definitely garage sales dipped. There were still some estate sales, but because they're sprinkled so far apart, I wasn't able to get to as many as I would have liked to. So my primary means of sourcing recently has been going to the bins. And one of the things that we talk a lot of times about being prepared, like when you go to garage sales, having some extra batteries in your car, making sure you've got your phone charged, making sure you've got different denominations of bills, right? There's ways to be prepared, planning your route out. But one of the ways, especially if you're going to like thrift stores and to the bins, that you got to be prepared is having things like hand sanitizer or gloves. Because I switched cars out. I used to have some hand sanitizer in my car. I also have some like work gloves, but those aren't as nice as like like the latex type gloves. I have a bunch of latex gloves here, but I didn't have them in my car at the time. So I've been going to the bins, and every time I'm in there, I'm like, my hands get all gross. And I'm like, man, now I'm going to my car and I'm touching stuff and I don't have anything to wash my hands with. And so I'm like, as soon as I get home, I need to get some gloves and hand sanitizer in the car. And then I forget. And then I'm like, oh, stop at the bins. I'm like, dang it, I don't have gloves or hand sanitizer. Because there's almost nothing worse. I mean, there's sometimes when you go to a garage sale and there's some sketchy boxes you're putting your hands in and digging around. It's pretty dirty and gross. And I don't mind dirt. Like, I have no problem going out. But it's like when clothes are like a little wet and sticky and you're just like, oh man, what am I touching right now? Or like even the hard goods
Yeah.
section. If you go to the bins, they have lots of hard goods sections, but there's like random stuff in there. There's like, kids' toys and other stuff. And yeah, you're touching things, like what is on my hands right now? I don't even want to get it anywhere near my face. But man, I'm telling you, I'm excited for garage sales to finally be able to get there, because I do pretty good at the bins. I mean, mostly hard good stuff. I try and stay away from the clothes. It's just not my niche. But it's still so hit or miss, right? Like sometimes you go in and it's like you find $100 or $200 worth of profits in 10 or 15 minutes, and other times you dig through a bunch of bins and it's just like nothing but maybe one or two books or like a random toy or something. I'm just excited for garage sales. I feel like the ROI is so much higher at garage sales. So I mean that's basically what's been going on with me. The other thing I've been talking about, my goal every month is to increase my eBay sales by 10%, or like offer up or other sales that I'm getting, the various ways I make my reselling. And I've been on track, right? January did it, February did it. But in February, I started to get, I think, a little bit, especially towards the end, I don't want to say cocky, but a little bit complacent, where it's like, okay, like I'm on track. And so I slowed down my listings. And so I made my goal, but I think that it had a hit on my store with how much I'm able to sell and move. And so now it's like I have to like revamp things up. And so kind of the takeaway from this, and I think we can all recognize this too, is you got to keep feeding the machine, right? If you're okay with like the current output you're getting, you can kind of float for a little while. But if you want to keep scaling, and the reason I picked that 10% is I want to double my eBay sales over last year, or get on track to be able to do that year after year. And 10% each month meets more than that, because I'll be more than 120% or more, because it compounds. But it's a doable goal, but you can't become complacent, right? You've got to keep feeding the beast, and that's just kind of the nature of reselling. And I feel like that's always the trap too that can suck resellers in, is like you got to keep getting more inventory listed and sourcing more, and if you want to keep growing that store. But then eventually you end up in a position where you're at, where it's like, now I've got so much stuff. How could you ever get out of this, right? Like a lot of times the only way is donate or flash sales, and it's a little bit tough.
No, I agree. I agree. And the thing is, how do you get out of this, right? And part of it is you just have to be willing to cut your losses. You talk about sunk costs, right? And there's a lot of sunk costs in reselling. I think people do it all the time, where they buy a bunch of stuff, they don't list it. Maybe at that time it was a great buy, but then they didn't list it, and so they ended up losing that money, and they're holding on to it, and it's dragging their store down. The sell-through rate's terrible. Just move on. Just keep moving on. Like, you got to get rid of it. Hey, before we get moving, let's talk about my reseller genie. It is March, and I asked that people forgive us. We will announce the winner for February for the free month of My Reseller Genie on our next episode. I just haven't been ready with a comment picker for that. But if you want a free month because of March, make sure to leave a comment on there. You get that free month of My Reseller Genie. My Reseller Genie is a great tool to help you with your taxes. And I would say more than ever, it's important to get your taxes done and do them accurately, just because all the stuff that's going on with the IRS and everything right now, you want to get that refund. So check out My Reseller Genie. You get 15% off the first month and use our code Pure Hustle. Again, 15% off the first month. Use our code Pure Hustle and get that discount. And I got to tell you, for me, it's been great. It's going to be interesting when I start removing some of the inventory from My Reseller Genie and how the numbers land. But My Reseller Genie is also great to track your inventory, to track your business, and allows you to export and import whatever information you need for your tax person. And taxes are coming around. It's already going to be, a little over a month.
Yeah, and that's one of the things too to be thinking about, is like we're coming into like tax time is coming up, which is a good time for resellers for a lot of reasons. One, if you're keeping good numbers, you're using something like My Reseller Genie to track your cost of goods and the items that are selling, and then you're also keeping track of all of the other things like miles and other expenses that you can deduct. You're going to be in for a higher tax refund. But the beautiful thing for us as resellers is when people get those refunds, man, they start buying. People, money burns a hole in people's pockets. And so if someone's getting a $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 tax refund, that money is going to be going to the things they want to buy. So if they've been hawking something on your eBay store for a while, it's likely to sell now. So it's a good time for resellers. But the nice thing too to be thinking about is we're still early in the year. So if you don't have a system already in place, something like My Reseller Genie is the right kind of system for you to make sure that you are keeping track and you're actually treating your business like a business. If you want to scale and grow, you can't run it like it's just a hobby. You've got to run it like it's a business, and a program and a tool like My Reseller Genie is truly priceless.
Agreed. All right, get to our random stories here. So my random story is just I want to encourage people to whenever they put their store on vacation, don't choose the one that you can't ship things out, like you can't buy things. Choose the one where you can still sell things up to 15 days. Because for me, I ended up, here's what I did. I had a 2-step plan. Step 1 of my moving was to move anything that I wouldn't have to use or needed for for a little while, right? That's the thing that would go in the pod. And so I ended up shipping out a bunch of stuff. I had shipped out my dressers. I shipped out a table. I shipped out a bunch of stuff that, do I need it? Yeah, it's nice to have in my room, but I don't need it to live, right? So I shipped those out. The last things I moved were on my eBay inventory because I wanted to have sales up until probably the last day possible. And then I put my store on vacation mode. And guess what? I'm still having sales during this move. Like my store isn't going to be on vacation for like another 3-4 days. And for example, I had a really nice sale for a painting for over $500. Like that's $500 I would have lost had I just decided to, put on vacation where you can't sell anything. So I encourage everyone to do that because it is kind of nice, right? It's kind of like a bonus, right? Especially if you're going from, full-time to part-time, like you forget. I forgot how nice it is to have a full salary, but also have that eBay side money. Like it's wonderful. It's not like ride or die with eBay. Like you can still do you can find good stuff, but the pressure is a little bit less. So I encourage people, make sure to use that vacation mode option and make sure to message people. Just let them know that, hey, your item will be shipped by this time. Most of the time, people, if they really want something, they're going to buy it. They're not going to give you a problem with it.
No, that's
How about
good.
you, Mike? What you have a random story here?
Yeah. So, several episodes ago, I talked about selling my 4Runner. It had a head gasket issue, and I ended up just buying a better car for my wife, my bigger family car. Otherwise, I might have considered using like one of those head gasket sealer stuff that you can buy, at AutoZone. Those have a pretty terrible reputation of potentially working. They either work completely or they work for a few months and then your car is completely ruined, or they don't work at all. So it's kind of like a crapshoot. It's just a gamble on that. But I decided, no, I'm just going to sell this thing. But the bummer was, had we sold it before the head gasket issue, we probably could have got like $6,000 to $7,000 because it's a 99 4Runner in really good condition. And it's a sought after car. Well, once this head gasket goes out, it needs a new engine. Like that's the only thing you can do for it. And it's pretty expensive to do. So it has been a nightmare. I talked in the past about all the scams that I got through like Craigslist and some issues through even Facebook Marketplace. And so it was a bit of a nightmare trying to sell this thing and trying to meet people and not being able to get this thing sold. And I had a few people like really lowballing, like not significantly. Like I wanted to get like $2,000 for it because the body was still good. It would have been a great project car. And a lot of people were trying to get like $800 to $1,000 because they know it needs a new engine. And they're like, hey, this needs a new engine. Like this is a fair price. So we ended up selling it through a company called Pedal, and different parts of the country have different companies like this. But they purchase vehicles pretty much in any condition, and I'm assuming that they fix some of them they just sell as is, some of them they lot up, or they do auctions, or they're doing something like where the eBay thing where they're taking parts, because I know there's more than $1,000 worth of just parts on my car. Like you could take the mirrors off, you could take the seats out, you could sell parts of it and it's going to sell for a lot of money. I just don't have the time to do that. So anyways, we sold it to this company called Pedal. It was a bit of a frustration with the tow company that came out to tow the car. They were super, super late. But it's interesting because the tow company comes out, they look at the car, they drive it up onto the tow truck, the flatbed, and then they hand you the check, right? Like that's it. It's just like that fast, that easy. We put in all the information online of what we were selling, what condition it was in, sent some pictures, and they came and they picked it up and gave us a check for it right there. And I was thinking to myself, I sold it to this company, Pedal, for $1,400. And I'm like, man, there were a few people who were like pretty adamant at about anywhere from $800 to $1,000. And if I'd have been like a little bit more like I need money now, I might have just done that for them, not knowing that even companies like this exist. And so I'm wondering, and why this is like a random story for reselling. I wonder if there are people who like their reselling method is look up cars that they know are basically junker cars on Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, put in all the information onto Pedal and see how much they could get for it, and then offer significantly less than that.
You're selling industry secrets here, Mike.
I mean, honestly, like it would be work. Like I don't think the average person, I can't imagine many people being like, I'm going to do this and it ruined the market. But I mean, if you knew a little bit about cars and you say like, hey, I could buy this car off this person. I've got a truck. I could just tow it myself. I'm going to buy it for $500 and Pedal will give me tomorrow for this exact same car. They'll give me $900. Right? So you spend a day, you go pick up the car, you get $400, boom, just like that. Now, there are some issues with, you're going to have to pay taxes, transferring the title. So this isn't something I'd imagine you could do like all the time, but you could probably do a handful a year. We have had people in the past on, in our comments, let us know about, you can only sell so many cars before you become like you have to get like certain licenses.
Really?
But I wonder if it's the same thing if you're doing it, like you're selling it to another company. It's not like you're selling it to people buying cars and flipping cars. But it's like you purchase the car and then you're selling it as if it's your car that you own. So yeah, I just wonder if the person who's trying to buy it from me or the several people trying to lowball me, if they really wanted to work on the car or if they just knew, hey, Pedal's going to give $1,400 for this car. So if I could pick it up for less than that, I'm going to just flip it.
It's a good idea. I mean, I see it all the time on social media. Like somebody will pick up a car for, $500 and they'll clean it up. Like the car's just dirty or it needs some paint, so they'll spray paint. I'm not saying it's legit. That's what they do. And then they'll flip that car from $500 to like $1,000, $1,500, like all day long.
But I mean, there's a lot of work in that if you're having to fix it up. But if you just know, like as is, this company will come and pick it up for this price. So if I can get it for less than that, then I can just basically flip it without having to do any work other than just pick it up and then get the car put into my name.
I don't know. It sounds too good to be true. Like sounds too easy, but maybe it's totally doable. I think it's a good idea.
I don't know how easy it is though, because again, you gotta have the truck, you gotta be able to tow cars that can't tow. You've got to be willing to like me. I mean, part of the problem, I sell quite a bit locally, but we've talked many times in the past about the problems with selling on Facebook Marketplace is you got to go and you got to meet up with people, and is the timing gonna work, and what if they flake out on you? So they probably deal with a lot of that. So I can't imagine it's something that's crazy successful. But if you could do one a month like that and you're guaranteed to make like $400 a month extra off of one purchase, one sale, that could be enough to pay a bill.
You are not wrong. So all right, well, let us know in the comments if you're one of those people that tried that and it's successful. Hey, we got some things to talk about. We got some reseller topics here, Mike, some eBay Q4 earnings and all that. So
all right, here we go. I'm going to play the start of our sound effect, and then we'll get into it. All right, so our eBay Q4 earnings report, clothing conditions on eBay finally happened. Sesame Street is suing eBay. eBay makes it easier to choose shipping times. All of this and more. Orlando, what's going on with our earning report?
So it's kind of funny. I just read a comment on one of our videos saying, "Oh, you guys said the economy was going to improve, and you're a bunch of clowns, blah blah." And it's like, well, I don't even need to say anything about that. The earnings report itself showed that people are still buying, right? That things are improving, and again, every reseller has a different experience, right? One reseller may have a terrible time. Another reseller is there. It's like Q4 for them year round. Right. But so the Q4 earnings report, I thought there's some interesting things here to discuss. So what this looked at was Q4 in 2024. Right. So it's usually about 3 months behind. And interesting things here. So they talked about some focus categories that were a key driver of their growth. One of them was trading cards. Trading cards grew in volume into the healthy double digits year after year and were the largest contributor to GMV growth in Q4.
Wow, for eBay, that's kind of shocking. I imagine that trading cards would have dipped after the 2020, 2021 timeframe. But I mean, people get into a hobby, and once you're in a hobby, people are in it. So
Yeah, maybe it's the mass quantity. Maybe it wasn't like high end. It's just a ton of cards, And then motor parts and accessories, we already knew that, maintained mid single digit GMV growth year for over year for the second consecutive year in 2024. And I will say, I do like buying auto parts from eBay, especially because they have that guaranteed to fit. It's awesome, right? If it doesn't work, you can send it back. They also had talked some stuff about influencers. I didn't think that was great, but I didn't know this. Did you know this? So they have a section that said meeting customers where they are, collaborated with OpenAI's operator to direct users to eBay listings. So they have a screenshot of somebody saying, find an authentic 1960s watch under $300. And what it does, it directs people to eBay.
through OpenAI, so that would be ChatGPT.
Yes.
All right. Well, you keep talking. I'm gonna try this out. I'm gonna
I thought that was
live
pretty
give it a shot.
I mean, if that's true, because a lot of people, a lot of you that don't know about ChatGPT, it's basically the new Google, right? Google gives
I think
information,
Grok
but-
is kind of replacing that, but ChatGPT
I get it.
is still up there.
Okay, let's say AI is replacing Google overall, right? But if ChatGPT is doing this, ChatGPT is pretty popular. That means there's a lot of people that are like, oh, I had this one thing in the 1990s that looked like this. It was a pair of pants of this, whatever. The brand kind of looked like this. And it would direct people to eBay. Like, that'd be pretty fascinating. So,
hey, it's doing it. ChatGPT
It
is
is
doing it right now. Yeah.
right to eBay, huh?
Yep.
That is, thank eBay. Okay.
Here, let me
We
take
give
a
eBay a lot of
screenshot and see if I
flack.
can
That's
put
pretty.
this-
That's pretty wise. I had no idea about that. So maybe we're slow to the party. Everybody in the comments is like, "Oh, we already knew that," but I think that's great. So Mike's gonna pull it up here. So I've seen a lot of people on social media talking about how they use ChatGPT to find items that they had when they were a kid or when they're teenagers that they couldn't find anymore. Sometimes they'll find like a picture online, and what they'll do with that picture online, they'll copy paste it and they'll upload it and say, ChatGPT, can you find? They'll say, can you find this item in this picture, and find me the platform that's available, and it'll pull up eBay and people end up buying. So this is great. I hope eBay continues this relationship. I hope that it, transcends to the other platforms, such as Grok and Claude and all the other AI. But it is a great tool. Now, along with that, right, eBay is also using Facebook Marketplace. So I have not seen this work too much. I kind of find like the Facebook Marketplace a little bit kind of like OfferUp. I don't know if you've been on OfferUp, but you're looking for things. And when you're looking for things, you end up getting a whole bunch of just randomness, and some of that is eBay listings. All right, so did you just ask for a watch, and that's all you asked for?
I just said I want a vintage Swatch watch. So yeah, I mean, Immortal Evolution says so. Just prompting a search on eBay. So yeah, I mean that is kind of true. Like you could just search it on eBay, but I'm sure that you could be a little bit more specific. Have things, and all those are clickable links. Like you can click those links, and it takes you right to the eBay listing. So there are probably going to be people who can set up specific reoccurring searches, and that's an interesting thing. I mean, that might even be useful if you can figure out a way to do it as trying to source on eBay, where you put in parameters and you have it do a search every so often. So you're not having to search everything, but like, here are the 30 things I want you to search in this, and they need to be at this price point. You have a prompt already saved, you throw it in. So instead of doing, just save searches and like getting those notifications, you can be looking at, I don't know, there's got to be some way of using something like that.
I think it's great in the fact that a lot of people still do I'm looking for something and they'll Google it, right? But now a lot more people, I hope you all are, use AI. I use ChatGPT over Google all day long. Now, Google does have Gemini, which is AI too, but I don't know. I pay for the ChatGPT service, so that's why I use it all the time. So that's great news. That's very encouraging. All right, so eBay. Okay, let's take a look at the finances here. So gross merchandise value, they had guidance of 18.9 billion to 19.3 billion, and they actually hit the top of their guidance. So they actually ended up at 19.3 billion, which is great. They ended up with 2.58 billion in revenue. Okay, so let's take a look at what that means as far as what does that mean for resellers. So in Q4 2024, they ended up at 19.3 billion. In comparison to the previous year, or 2023 Q4, 18.6 billion. So that's great. I'll take 3% growth. I mean, that's awesome for a company. And I've always said that eBay is the platform to go to. eBay is where you should start. eBay is where you should do everything to begin with, because that's where the most eyes are. Now, where do you think they made a lot of money again, Mike? We go through this every year.
I mean, of course, they made all their money off of fees, right? Like they made their money off of the final value fee and promoted listings.
Promoted listings. So promoted listings went up to 445 million in comparison to the previous Q4 the year before, 393 million. It's a huge jump. So of course, eBay very much enjoys promoted listings. And sometimes people ask us questions like, should I use promoted listings? The one time we usually say no is if your stuff is an item that has a great sell-through rate, but there's not a lot available, the demand will take care of itself. But I'm a strong believer that if eBay strongly encourages you to do promoted listings, and you have a lot of items that aren't that great items, promoted listings is the way to go. Like it'll continue doing sales for you. Yes, it'll take a greater amount. You got to be careful of that. I have it pretty bad at times where I end up losing, like, I get 10% eBay fees and then I get another 18% in promoted fees. So I'm looking at like 28-30% fees before it's all said and done. So be aware of that. But not too bad. I'm okay with eBay's earnings report, especially because there was people that were like, oh, this is the end of our economy, things are bad. It's like, no, eBay's actually saying people are encouraged, right? It's Christmas. No matter what's going on at Christmas, people still want to buy a gift for their loved ones. And so they will go online, and they go online now more than ever. All right, Mike. In case you didn't know, the clothing conditions on eBay finally happened.
Woo, yay.
And that's it. That's all. Like, it didn't. I looked at it.
I mean, I just want to see like how it shakes out, right? Like, does this actually lead to better sales? I mean, maybe if it's a better experience for customers, even if it's a tad bit more work for us in one end, that could lead to more people buying clothes on eBay. I don't know. So we'll just have to see how it shakes out. Is it just another step for us, or is it actually going to improve our sales or customer experience, which also is important for us, even though you don't always feel it on the direct end. You get the ripple benefits from that down the road.
Yeah. So we'll see. But I thought it was a nothing burger. I know a lot of people were concerned and it's going to change. I don't think it changed anything. I think most people probably are under the category of good unless they have new items. I think if you have fair like that, I don't think a lot of people do unless they're like thrifters or they're looking for items that, vintage. All right. I just want to share this next story because you never know if viral listings, and this is also important if you do Amazon, eBay, and Walmart. So the company behind Sesame Street, is according to the Wrap, wants e-commerce sites to stop selling fake versions of their trademark goods or else pay $150,000 per infringed work.
That's pretty intense, especially given the fact that isn't that like Sesame Street is broadcast on like government supported platform.
I didn't even think about
it's like taxpayer money.
It's not a for-profit.
Yeah, taxpayer money is used for the company and for putting their show out there. So it's like, who really owns it?
So as a Sesame Workshop filed a lawsuit on Friday against sellers on e-commerce sites like eBay, Walmart, and Amazon in an effort to stop the sale of allegedly counterfeit merchandise or else pay $150,000 per infringed work. The parent company of Sesame Street also named AliExpress, eCreator, Made in China, and Temu.
I mean, I get those ones. I get things like if you're buying things off Temu, like right now, I'm sure Pit Viper has finally gone and sued Temu enough because you can get ones that look like Pit Vipers.
Yeah,
I only bring that up because that was like the first thing I bought on Temu just to like check it out. But like you could buy Pit Viper sunglasses that actually said Viper on them or Pit Viper, just like the real ones. They looked real, like they used the logo and everything. Now they sell ones that look like it but don't use the logo or say other things instead. They just have like it's a snake or something, right? So I get like suing, like, okay, this is a clear counterfeit that's being made and sold, but like it's tough because how do you go against somebody like eBay that's like a used reselling platform? Like you can maybe go after sellers on there if it's like, hey, the seller is intentionally doing that, but how do you to go after a company like eBay saying, hey, people are selling fakes on your site and we're going to sue you for that? It's like, is eBay really responsible? They're really just acting like a like a mediator, like between buyers and sellers. Like they're just the platform. It'd be like suing Craigslist because somebody sold a bad item on Craigslist. It's like, look, we're just the ad. Like people are just putting it up here to sell.
Yeah, it's just one of those, like always beware. Like that's kind of the risk of reselling. I mean, there always is the first sale doctrine, meaning that if you bought it used, you're pretty much golden. It's when you do retail arbitrage where you run into issues, right? This is where Amazon will gate you, or Walmart will gate you, or you'll get a counterfeit claim. That's where this is going to hit you. So be aware if you're selling Amazon and you sell Sesame Street. All right, I thought this was pretty fascinating. This actually dropped last week. This is from TechCrunch. eBay makes it easier to find fast shipping items and local listings. So eBay announced on Thursday that it has updated its platform to help buyers find fast shipping items and local listings thanks to changes to search, item cards, and additional usage of AI. The company is making it easier to identify items with fast delivery, as search item cards now display delivery range estimates for all shipping items. And I can personally speak on this. So my son needs books for college, and Amazon's not what it used to be. Remember Amazon, you could order and you would get it in 2 days?
Yeah,
like it's not like that anymore, right? Sometimes it's like it could be a week, whatever, right? Yep. So why I like eBay over Amazon in ordering books is on eBay, I can go and I could put like the zip code that he's in, and it'll just show me like resellers that are within 25 or 50 or 100 miles. And I know that even if they have like slower shipping times, if they're close enough, like let's say it's a Wednesday and they're in Arizona and I need the book by Friday, but they sell the items with expedited shipping, chances are I'll get it by Friday in California if it's expedited, like unless they choose to take their sweet time packing and shipping it. And so I think this is a great tool. I know as a buyer I enjoy it, and I think as a seller it'll help you out a lot too, because people will be willing to buy from you because they'll get the item sooner.
Nice. I like it.
Were you gonna say something, Mike, there?
Nope, I think that's good.
No, so yeah, so always make sure that you have good shipping on there. It's one of the things I've experienced lately with trying to buy these books. Like people are like shipping and handling times like 5 days. So the moment from you buying something, 5 days until they'll ship it. And I'm like, what? I'm not gonna buy from you. Like that's crazy. Right. And so I don't know, maybe we have people here in the chat that do that. Let us know why you do that. I understand life situations and so on, but I would think you want to improve yourselves, and a way to improve yourselves is to make sure that you get things out on time. So that is our race. Looks like it just did a sit-up, doesn't it? Like 1, 2.
Orlando's working out at his new place, man.
If you're looking at the
new zip code, podcast, new you, man.
You have no idea what's going on, but the camera dropped on my MacBook, so that's all that happened. All right. Hey, before we jump into our BOLOs, hey, just want to tell everyone, if you want to follow us on social media, we are Pure Hustle Podcast on all platforms except X. We are Pure Hustle Cast. If you ever want to shoot us an email, we are Pure Hustle Podcast, purehustlepodcast@gmail.com. Or you can always just reach out to us in DMs. But the best way is email, I would say, because it's not as flooded on there. I want to thank everyone that listens to the podcast. But if you've listened and you haven't jumped on over to YouTube, jump on over to YouTube, hit that subscribe button, smash that like button, click that bell notification. Grateful for all of you that leave us iTunes reviews. It's always helpful. Let people know why you gave us 5 stars, and so people can know, hey, this is why I listen to the Pure Hustle Podcast. We are the #1 reselling podcast out there, the most reviewed reselling podcast with the highest reviews out there. And it's not because of us, it's because of all of you and your support and taking the time to go on there. So if you haven't yet, jump on over to iTunes, let people know why you love the podcast. Greatly appreciated. I did want to address one comment. This comment said on the review said, love this podcast. This is from Lolo Livy. Wanted to respond to one of the questions about taking a risk that paid off on an episode January 16, but I have no idea how. Love the podcast, is entertaining and educational. So Lolo Livy, shoot us an email, purehustlepodcast@gmail.com, and let us know what happened. We'd love to share on a future podcast.
Yep. And you can also come on over to the YouTube, hit the like, subscribe, and bell notification. So when you watch the videos here, you could always leave comments on the videos as well.
That's true. And last of all, before we forget, hey, if you enjoy this free content, the reason we are able to over, I don't know what, 6 years now, 440 episodes, is because I want to say viewers like you, like KPBS. No, it's because of all of you that have continually supported us via Patreon for $5.55 a month. Again, $5.55 a month. That is a deal and a half. That gives you access to our Discord that has hundreds of resellers from all different walks of life. Some people that do retail arbitrage, some people that do just books, some people that end up selling vintage t-shirts, golf clubs, whatever you name it. There's a ton of information for you. So make sure to check out the Discord. Definitely worth the time. All right. So what where are we at? Bolos.
Bolos.
What's your bolo?
Yeah. All right. So here's a bolo that I actually don't know anything about, which is not a good way to start this. But a couple of episodes ago, I used a scene from the TV show Ted Lasso as an example for, I think it was about like how, what we do as resellers is like a good thing, even though we do it for money and for profit. Like that doesn't mean it's bad. So Ted Lasso kind of got me thinking. My son plays soccer, not competitively. He's a little kid, so he just plays in like his little soccer leagues. And as an American, soccer is just not the sport here. However, across the world, soccer is the sport, right? Like in all over the world. And I do think that soccer is growing in popularity in America. Next year is going to be the World Cup year. I believe it's 2026. But even still, like we're moving into soccer season. It just started towards the tail end of February here in the United States. And so with a new season starting, that's one of those areas that I think that it might be a niche for people to start kind of looking into, whether it's soccer equipment, because, kids are always playing soccer and growing out of things. We've talked a lot about like football cleats and football equipment, but there's also the other football, right? The football for the world, which is soccer, football. So, I think things like jerseys, I think things like trading cards. A few years ago when they had the World Cup, and it was amazing seeing how many of my students had like binders where they were collecting and trading cards and stickers, and they were filling out like passports of different players, and so it just goes to show that it isn't an emerging market here in the United States. And so I would hate to be way behind on it, where it's like, you missed Pokemon cards. It's like, dang it, I missed the golden time of Pokemon cards or Magic the Gathering cards. And it's like, if soccer is moving towards potentially being an up and coming thing, where even if it's never going to replace football or baseball in America, it's just not America's sport. But as it grows in popularity, the market is going to grow. Plus, a site like eBay, you've got worldwide reach. So I would say be on the lookout for soccer stuff and maybe learn a little bit about it, just because if you're like me and you know very, very, very little about soccer, it might be worth branching off into that niche.
No, I listen. Now is the time to be sourcing for the World Cup. This World Cup is going to be huge. Like I even have my friends growing up that we all talked about, like, hey, let's go to 3 or 4 games. Let's get those tickets. Let's get the hotel rooms. And you better bet that all these people are going to be looking for jerseys. They're going to be looking for merchandise. Like, it's going to be pretty hot. It's definitely going to be a bolo. So that is a great bolo. My bolo is, I don't know. I always try to, not repeat bolos too much, but this one I haven't shared for a long time. Anything that is VW related, like, the bus, right? The VW buses, like there's a huge following. Volkswagen. Yep. So whether it's Hawaiian shirts or it's, I don't know, paraphernalia or store display or whatever it is, like it's always worth taking a look, researching it or picking it up, because that stuff, I mean, I think even the Hot Wheels, like the red lines, the VWs, those go for $400 to $500, $600, maybe even more, depending on what model it is. So I know it's a pretty generic bolo, but I got to tell you, like I've always sold VW stuff. I'm even thinking about all the inventory that I went through this last two weeks. Like I had no VW stuff. Like I always saw that VW stuff in good time, because there is definitely a market. There's collectors out there. They love having these items. So definitely check those out. All right, hey, I just want to address Corbin Crafter here says, so I'm actually in the minority. I take a while to ship, but I try my best to be as upfront with that as possible. I balance that by giving great deals. For me, issues only arise when I wasn't upfront, but since I've put it in my shop policies, most buyers are patient. They're fine waiting to get their items, knowing they're getting the best price on it. And that is true. That is true. A lot of people are saying, hey, if I got an excellent price, I don't mind waiting. It's not something I need urgently. It's not something I need now. That is true. There are some people. And that's the thing. I felt like I was just coming at people. But I understand. Like I said, everybody has their lot in life. I know some people that ship twice a week. And it works for them, right? Because they have items that people want and people are willing to wait. So keep an eye on it. I know for me though, like even if it's something I'm willing to wait, I don't want to wait. So I'm gonna go to the person that's gonna have same day shipping or next day shipping. And free shipping is important to me to a certain point, as long as it's not exorbitant. I will tell you, like I buy a lot of books, and some of these shipping prices on books are like $10, $12, $15. And I understand if they're like, a huge, like hardbound book, but most books could fit in a padded envelope. Most books could even go in like a flat rate envelope. So be aware that you may be turning away a lot of buyers because you're charging a lot for shipping. And again, you do what's best for your business. I'm just saying, from my own experience, I have found that if I can be very competitive in my shipping, I don't have to offer free shipping. People are still willing to buy from me. All right, Mike, what are you looking forward to here?
Yeah, I mean, I think I kind of mentioned it at the top of the episode here, but we're moving into garage sale season, and I'm excited to, on our next update episode, talk about some garage sale, hunts and what I was able to pick up. It's there's nothing like it. Like garage sales, I feel like that's why I resell. Is I love the garage sales.
Yeah,
so
it's true.
It's the best part. What about you, Orlando?
So I'm excited about organizing everything. Like here's the beauty. The place that I end up finding, the person had like a store, kind of like they were selling stuff, and they had shelves everywhere, like everywhere. Like the whole garage has shelving everywhere, and it's organized. And all I have to do is like get some tape and just put like a custom SKU number, like on top of all these shelves, and it'll be really easy for me to locate my inventory. So I'm really excited about organizing that. I'm excited about getting this podcast set up again. I don't know what I'm going to do. And I am looking forward to sourcing again. Like, I think it's time for me to go sourcing again finally. But I do need to make sure everything is organized before I do that, or I'll end up in the same mess.
That's right.
I know Mike's look is saying, no, he's not going to wait. Yeah, you might be right, but we'll see what happens. So, all right. All right. Hey, everybody. Hope you enjoyed the show. Thank you for everyone that joined us live. Really appreciate every single one of you. And as always, we do post a long form podcast every week. This was a day late, but we want to make sure it happens. So tune in every Wednesday. And with that being said, make sure to be real,
Be relevant,
and be reselling. Leads.
Peace.